can tell you the exact moment it started to unravel. Not with a fight or a confession, not even a mistake, really. It started with a single message, 15 words long, at a business breakfast with fresh fruit and free scones. It was a Wednesday, midweek. Nothing special. We were in a conference hall just off Charleston Bay, sitting at a long table with 5 other couples. All clean blazers, practice smiles, early promotions. The kind of event where everyone brags politely and watches their caffeine intake. I was sipping lukewarm coffee, listening to a conversation about commercial property tax incentives I barely understood. Emily sat beside me, completely in her element. She was glowing that morning. Hair pulled back, simple gold earrings, that navy dress I always told her made her look like the kind of woman who owned buildings, not just designed them. She had just accepted a new leadership role at her firm, senior project architect, or something close to that. I remember the way she spoke, all passion and precision, talking about her latest downtown project like it was a second heartbeat. Her voice carried. Heads nodded when she talked. I always admired that about her, the way she made people listen. Then her phone buzzed. It was face up on the table, like always. Emily had this thing about transparency. She used to say, "I'm too tired to lie about anything," which made me trust her even more. But this time, her phone lit up, and I saw the message before she did. "Still tasting your wine and your skin. Ryan M." Felt like being slapped without sound. My eyes scanned the line 3 times before her hand gently moved the phone closer to her coffee, like she hadn't even read it. But I had. I knew that name. Ryan Monroe. He worked in her department. A regional head or something, known for calling interns rock stars, and using words like synergy unironically. He was polished, charming in that networking conference way. 2 weeks ago, he told her, in front of me, that she had a bold, fearless vision. He also stood just a little too close when they talked. I noticed. I always noticed. Emily didn't flinch. She let out a soft laugh, effortless, controlled, and turned to the table. "Ryan's ridiculous," she said. "He sends wine quotes after tastings. You should see the stuff he writes. Total wine snob." The woman next to us smiled. "Is he the one from Asheville?" Emily nodded. Someone chuckled. The moment passed, but I didn't move, didn't smile, didn't blink. Emily kept talking like nothing happened. She transitioned from wine quotes to budgets, from budgets to green certifications, as if the room hadn't just caught fire for me. But something in her hand gave it away. A tremble barely there when she picked up her cup, so slight most people wouldn't see it. But I did, because I knew her. I sat there for the rest of the breakfast, pretending, nodding in the right places, laughing on cue. But the voice in my head wouldn't stop. "Still tasting your wine and your skin. Still tasting your skin." You don't write something like that to a colleague unless there's something real between you. Something private. Something physical. I wanted to believe it was a joke. A misread. A bizarre inside reference. But I already knew. Deep down, I think I had known for a while. After the event, Emily said she was headed back to the office and offered to call me later. I kissed her cheek. Automatic, like a habit, and told her to have a good day. She smiled. It wasn't her real smile. It was the one she used in client meetings, the one that made you feel like everything was fine even when it wasn't. On the way home, I kept replaying the moment in my head. The message. The way she brushed it off without checking it. How no one at the table thought twice, because that's who she was. The confident one. The trusted one. The golden architect who everyone assumed had nothing to hide. Except I had started noticing the cracks long before that message. I just didn't want to admit it. There was the new perfume. Deeper, heavier. Not her usual scent. When I asked about it, she said it was a gift from a colleague. "Everyone at the office wears something these days," she joked. "Gotta keep up." There was the habit of waking up early to go on runs, even though she hated mornings her entire life. She used to say early alarms felt like revenge from a past life. Then she started silencing her phone. "Just need a break from notifications," she told me. "Especially Ryan. He messages everyone constantly." Yeah, I bet he does. But the worst part? I believed her. Every time. Without hesitation. Because she was my wife. Because I'd known her for 10 years. Because you don't assume the person you build a life with is lying to your face. It wasn't until that breakfast that I allowed myself to even question it. When I got home, I sat on the edge of the bed and just stared at the hardwood floor for a long time. Archie, our dog, rested his head on my foot, sensing something was off. I didn't know what I was feeling, shock, maybe, not anger, not yet, just suspended, like someone had pulled the floor out from under me and I was still waiting to fall. My phone buzzed. A message from Emily. Thanks for being patient today. Ryan's being weird again. Remind me to tell you later. Love you. I stared at it for a long time. I typed, "You okay?" Deleted it. Typed, "What did he mean by that message?" Deleted that too. I just replied, "Love you too." And even as I sent it, I knew that version of us, the one where those words still felt true, was already gone. I didn't bring it up that night. Emily came home a little later than usual, kicked off her shoes in the entryway, and asked how my day was. I said fine. She said she was starving, then pulled out leftovers like everything was normal. I watched her move around the kitchen, casual and confident, like someone who didn't have anything to hide. Like someone who hadn't received a message that still rang in my head like a siren. Still tasting your wine and your skin. She leaned against the counter while the microwave hummed, scrolling her phone. I noticed it was on silent again. She used to keep the sound on. Little things like that I used to love. How she'd smile when a group chat lit up or laugh when her sister sent a meme. But now silence. Even when it buzzed, she barely glanced. I waited for her to mention it. The text. Ryan. Some kind of explanation that would make it all make sense. But she didn't. She just talked about deadlines and how her firm's new director didn't know how to delegate. I nodded. I pretended. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. Later that night, while she was brushing her teeth, I sat on the edge of the bed again. Same spot, same blank stare at the floorboards. She stepped out of the bathroom, hair damp, towel over her shoulders, humming something under her breath. She climbed into bed beside me and kissed my cheek. "You okay?" she asked, placing her hand on my arm. "Just tired," I said. It wasn't a lie. I felt tired in a way I couldn't name. She smiled, soft, sweet, easy, and turned off the lamp. Within minutes, she was asleep. I laid there for hours, staring at the ceiling, blinking into the dark. That night was when the remembering started. The kind that doesn't come in a single wave but creeps in, drip by drip, until your entire history looks different. Like that time 6 months ago when she said she had to go down to Savannah for a weekend, an emergency meeting with contractors. She packed quickly, said she'd be back Sunday night. When I called the site manager 2 weeks later, just to ask about a zoning issue I'd heard her mention, he sounded confused. Said the team hadn't been in Savannah for a while. I brushed it off at the time. Miscommunication, maybe, or she went to meet a client off-site. But now it echoed louder. Or the night I found a hotel receipt in the trash. Not in the kitchen, in the bin under the bathroom sink, crumpled with used cotton rounds and an empty moisturizer tube. It was for the Hilton Midtown, not a cheap place. The receipt was in her name, but also listed a second guest. Ryan Monroe. I remember blinking at it, then setting it back in the bin like it was a mistake I didn't need to understand. I asked her about it later, casually. "Hey, did you stay at the Hilton for that client trip?" She had blinked once, then smiled. "Yeah, why?" "No reason. Just saw a charge in the bank app." "Ah, yeah, we booked 2 rooms through the firm. Ryan and I had back-to-back meetings, so they coordinated everything. It was weirdly efficient for once." I said okay. Because what else do you say when your wife tells you there's nothing to worry about, and you have no proof otherwise? But the more I remembered, the more it all started to feel like one long rehearsed script. The business trips, the perfume she suddenly started wearing, heavy, smoky, almost Eunice *X. She told me it was a sample from a vendor. "It's a little bold," she said, "but I like how it lingers." Yeah. I bet he liked that too. She also started running. That one really got to me. Emily used to joke that running was just a way to chase your problems without solving them. She'd sworn off early mornings since our second anniversary trip to Oregon, when we missed the hotel breakfast because she'd stayed up late watching HGTV. But suddenly, she was waking up before dawn, lacing up shoes she'd barely used before, and going out just to clear my head. I asked once if she wanted me to come with her. She hesitated, just a beat, then said, "You're not a morning person, babe. It's okay." And I believed her. I wanted to believe her. I was married to this woman. I trusted her more than anyone. I defended her. I'd made sacrifices for her. I built half of my world around the idea that she was someone I never had to doubt. But now everything started to feel like one long series of small betrayals, wrapped in pretty packaging. There was even the way she started dressing differently, not in a showy way. Subtler, sharper, darker colors, more form-fitting. She said it was for work, that her new title meant more client interaction and impressions mattered. I nodded, proud of her, told her she looked amazing, because she did. But I started wondering who exactly she was dressing for. And still, I didn't say anything. Not when she canceled date nights last minute. Not when she brought up that Ryan was pushing her hard to take the lead on a coastal project. Not even when I saw a Lyft ride pop up on our shared account at 1:14 a.m. one Saturday night from an address I didn't recognize. She claimed it was for her assistant, who forgot their card after an after-hours event. I nodded. Of course. That made sense. It always made sense. Until it didn't. I started paying more attention. Where her eyes went when she was texting. When she locked her phone. How she always smiled at her screen a second too long before responding. She'd never been that person. And suddenly she was. I'm not proud of what I did next. But I couldn't keep ignoring the feeling in my chest. That tight, breathless heaviness I carried everywhere. One night, after she fell asleep, I picked up her phone. Her password hadn't changed. Same four-digit code she'd used for years. I felt sick even holding it. My hands shook. I didn't know what I was hoping to find, or not find. Maybe I wanted to prove myself wrong. Maybe I wanted to believe I was just paranoid. There were no obvious messages. Nothing in her texts. Nothing in WhatsApp. Her Instagram was full of architecture reels and art pages. But when I opened her email, the work one, I saw it. An archived thread. Subject: Savannah reschedule. From Ryan Monroe. To Emily Walters. Hey, next time we go down, I'm booking the room with the view. You said you wanted to watch the sunrise last time. Let's make it count. My stomach dropped. Another message. 2 days later. Client meeting ran long. Sorry for rushing breakfast. You looked dangerous in that blazer. Can't stop thinking about it. There were no replies from her in the thread. But that almost made it worse. Like she'd deleted her side to stay clean. To leave no trail. I put the phone down and sat in the dark. Everything I thought we were. Every shared inside joke. Every Sunday morning spent arguing over pancake flavors. It all suddenly felt like theater. Like I'd been reading from a script she stopped believing in a long time ago. The cracks had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. Now they were gaping, and I couldn't unsee a thing. The message could have been a joke. The hotel receipt might have been a clerical error. The perfume, the early runs, the new routines, they all could have been coincidences. That's what I kept telling myself. Because even with everything I'd seen, part of me still needed a reason to believe she hadn't crossed the line. Until the morning she left for the seminar. It was a Thursday. She stood at the front door with her suitcase. One of those sleek graphite rollers I bought her last Christmas. She wore a gray coat, tight black slacks, and ankle boots she only used when she wanted to feel powerful. I remember watching her tie her hair back, then glance at the hallway mirror like she was posing for something she couldn't name. You sure you don't want me to drive you to the station? I asked. She smiled. No, it's just quicker this way. Ryan's picking up some of the team along the route. I'll see you Saturday. Saturday. 48 hours. She kissed me on the cheek, not the lips, and walked out like she was just going to pick up groceries. Not like she was carrying my trust in her luggage. I stood in the foyer for a long time after she left. The smell of her perfume, that same deep musk, still lingered. I hated that I noticed it. I hated that it still stirred something in me. But I hated even more that I didn't believe a word of what she just said. I went back to the kitchen and stared blankly at the counter. Then my phone buzzed. A fraud alert from our bank. Not a major one, just a standard notification. But when I tapped into it, my stomach dropped. A charge at the Blue Harbor Suites. Made that morning. Not for a conference center. Not a seminar hall. A boutique hotel with ocean-facing rooms and a jacuzzi in every suite. We'd stayed there once on a last-minute weekend getaway years ago, before her promotion, before the long silences. The name on the booking matched our joint account, but the signature was hers. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was the conference hotel. Maybe she just didn't mention the name. Maybe I was overreacting. Again. But I already knew what I was going to do. I got in the car and drove. The Blue Harbor wasn't far. 30 minutes along the coast, tucked behind a row of high-end condos and seafood restaurants. The drive was a blur. Gray skies, coastal fog, the occasional glint of water between trees. My heart beat so hard I could feel it in my ears. Not because I was afraid of what I'd find. Because I wasn't afraid anymore. At the front desk, I gave my name. Told the receptionist my wife had accidentally left something in the room. Asked if she could help. She checked her screen and, without hesitation, gave me the number. Room 412. I don't remember walking down the hall. Just the pattern on the carpet, navy waves on cream, and the hum of vending machines as I passed. When I reached the door, I didn't even knock. I knew better. The door was cracked open. Just enough. Inside, it was quiet except for the hiss of the shower behind a half-closed bathroom door. The room smelled like wine and lavender soap. There were 2 glasses on the side table, one with lipstick, one with a thumbprint. Her scarf was draped across the foot of the bed. A man's blazer, navy, expensive-looking, hung over the back of a chair. I stepped forward once, then stopped. Through the frosted glass of the bathroom, I could see them. Just silhouettes, but unmistakable. 2 bodies. Clothes. Moving. Her head tilted back. His arms around her waist. There was no talking. No moaning, just the sound of water and the image of her, my wife, holding herself against someone else like she used to hold me. That was the moment the questions died. I didn't say anything, didn't burst in, didn't shout. I backed away slowly, like someone leaving the scene of a crime they didn't commit. Down the hallway, past the ice machine, through the lobby. I walked straight to the parking lot and sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I stared at the dash, not breathing, not thinking. Then I started the engine. But I didn't go home. Not yet. I drove aimlessly for a while. Not far, just enough to feel the air shift, the world move without me. Eventually I pulled into an empty overlook above the bay and sat in silence. The sky was gray, the water still. I watched a seagull dive, disappear, then reappear with something flailing in its beak. Life doing what it does, carrying on even when things break. What surprised me most wasn't what I'd seen. It was what I didn't feel. No rage, no panic, just cold clarity. Like something inside me had gone still. I used to wonder what it would feel like to find out. To really know. To catch someone in the act. I thought it would break me, but it didn't. It just ended the guessing. There was nothing left to defend. Later that afternoon, I drove home. I opened the door to our house, and everything looked exactly the same. The framed photo of us at Niagara Falls still hung over the mantel. The coffee mugs were still drying on the rack. Her slippers sat by the back door. But none of it felt real anymore. I walked through the rooms like a visitor. I opened drawers, checked the glove box of her car, found a half-used bottle of the wine we always shared, the one Ryan once called decadent. Found receipts in the passenger door pocket. Dinners, cafes. One with a smiley face drawn in pen next to, "Thank you, Emily," and a note. "See you next Friday, love." It felt almost methodical now, like an investigation, like sorting puzzle pieces she never expected me to touch. I wasn't collecting evidence out of revenge. I was collecting it because I needed the truth to have weight. Not suspicion. Not inference. Facts. I opened a folder on my desktop and started organizing. Receipts. Email screensh *ts. Photos. The hotel charge from the bank portal. A copy of the Hilton receipt I'd scanned months ago. A timeline started forming, piece by piece, and with every click, I felt myself detaching further. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I had to, but because the bed felt foreign. Too clean. Too dishonest. Her scent lingered on the pillow, and I couldn't bring myself to wash it. Not yet. She came back the next day like she said she would. Same suitcase. Same coat. She kissed me again. Cheek, not lips, and told me the seminar was exhausting but productive. She poured a glass of water, leaned against the counter, and started talking about keynote speakers. She never noticed the shift in my eyes. I nodded where I was supposed to. I smiled when it fit. But something in me had already left the room. I watched her move through the kitchen like a stranger rehearsing a familiar part. I knew then, really knew, that confrontation wouldn't change her. She'd lie, reframe, reword. She was too deep in her own version to back out now. People like her don't confess. They calculate. So I didn't confront. I listened. I waited. I let her believe. But behind the silence, I had already started building something she couldn't see. An exit. I always thought if something like this ever happened, if the person I loved betrayed me, I'd explode. That I'd break something, scream, lose control. But the truth is, when the moment finally came, there was nothing dramatic about it. There was no fire, just frost. A still, quiet cold that spread slowly through my chest and settled in like it had always belonged there. After Emily came back from that hotel, the seminar, as she called it, I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions I already knew the answers to. I didn't shout or accuse. I just nodded along as she described a PowerPoint presentation about sustainable shoreline materials, sipping her tea like she hadn't spent the previous night in someone else's arms. She unpacked her bag in the bedroom while I sat on the couch, pretending to read emails. And in that moment, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was done. Felt like stepping outside during a snowfall. The silence wraps around you. Everything looks the same, but the world has shifted. The sounds are muffled. The edges are softer. You're still standing in the middle of your life, but suddenly you don't feel part of it anymore. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I opened my laptop and began the process. I wasn't thinking revenge. That wasn't what this was. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to ruin her. I just wanted out clean, efficient, final. No begging. No drama. Just the truth. I sorted the folder I'd created the day before. Gave it a name, Walter's Personal. I uploaded the hotel receipts. Screensh *ts of her email threads with Ryan. The lift rides, the dinner checks, the wine bottle photos I found in her glove compartment. Every detail she didn't think I'd notice, I collected. I wasn't even sure what I planned to do with it yet. I just knew I needed to have it. Somewhere safe. Where her smile couldn't erase it. Later that day, I drove to the bank. I didn't say anything to Emily before I left. She was upstairs on a conference call, gesturing animatedly to her screen. Her voice, calm, authoritative, echoed down the stairs. I used to love hearing her like that. Now it just sounded like a stranger renting space in my house. At the bank, I split our accounts. Transferred my half of the savings into a separate checking account I had opened quietly the year before, back when she first started changing. It wasn't a lot, but it was mine. I also opened a new deposit box and left a flash drive inside, just in case. From there, I drove to a small storage unit I'd reserved online earlier that morning. 50 square feet, month to month, no questions asked. I started bringing over a few things each day. Clothes, documents, backup hard drives, a duffel bag with essentials. I didn't want to leave in a rush. I wanted to move like someone walking away from a fire without looking back. Emily didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care enough to ask. That evening, we made dinner together for the first time in weeks. It was surreal. The two of us chopping vegetables side by side like nothing had changed. She laughed at something I said about the onions making me cry, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw the woman I used to love. The warmth in her eyes, the way her hand brushed against mine as she reached for the olive oil. But the feeling didn't land. It just passed through me. Later, we sat on the couch and watched a documentary about coral reefs. She curled up beside me, her head on my shoulder. I stared at the screen, pretending I was still present. She sighed once, soft, content, and whispered, "I'm glad we're getting back to normal." Normal. I wanted to laugh, or scream, or shake her awake and ask if she really thought we could ever go back to what we were before. But instead, I just said, "Yeah, me too." Because what was the point? She wasn't going to tell the truth. She didn't want to, and I wasn't going to beg for it. I had already chosen a different kind of P*N. Silence. The kind that doesn't just sit in the room, it takes up space, presses in on every word, makes your lies echo a little louder. Silence gives you power if you know how to hold it long enough. That week, I planned everything down to the smallest detail. Quietly, carefully, I made copies of our shared keys, rerouted my mail to a P.O. box, set up a new email, found a short-term rental an hour away. Small, no frills. Above a workshop owned by a retired carpenter who barely asked my name. I told him I'd be fixing up some furniture for side cash. He handed me the keys and said, "Just don't bring drama." "Wouldn't dream of it," I said. At home, Emily was glowing. Something had shifted in her. A new lightness, a sense of ease. She started playing music in the mornings again. Woke up humming. I caught her dancing in the kitchen once, spinning to some indie track with flour on her nose, like we were in a rom-com montage. It was almost cruel how happy she looked, like she had finally convinced herself the lie was real. And maybe it was, for her, but not for me. I kept to the routine, made her coffee, asked about her day, slept beside her, kissed her forehead. Each time I did, I felt less and less. Not numb, not bitter, just empty, like a bank account that had been overdrawn one too many times. The night before I left, I stayed up late after she went to bed, packed the last of my things into the trunk of my car. A few books, a toolbox, 2 framed photos I couldn't bear to throw out yet. I left everything else, the house, the bed, the memories. Let her keep them. Let her make sense of them. I sat at the kitchen table one last time. The silence was deafening, but I welcomed it. I made a fresh cup of coffee and left it there, untouched, next to my house keys. No note, no final words, just that silence. The kind that wraps itself around the truth and squeezes until it becomes undeniable. I locked the front door behind me at 4:17 a.m. The neighborhood was asleep. No cars, no footsteps, just the sound of wind against the branches and the faint hum of distant traffic. I got in the car and drove east. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the sky was starting to shift. Pale blue at the edges, the kind of light that feels borrowed. I rolled the window down and let the wind hit my face. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something break loose inside me. Not grief, not rage, freedom. There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't mean surrender, it means calculation. It's not the absence of noise, but the presence of intent. After I left that morning, I wasn't running away. I wasn't hiding. I was executing the cleanest exit I could manage. Because Emily didn't need a confrontation. She didn't deserve a fight. She needed something colder. Something that couldn't be argued with, twisted, or denied. I wasn't interested in giving her closure. I wasn't interested in anything that could be labeled drama. I just wanted the truth to burn quietly. The night before I left, I had copied all the files, photos of receipts, *TS of emails, a PDF bank statement showing her charging spa treatments and drinks to our shared card on weekends. I thought she was traveling for work. I compiled it all onto a single flash drive. Neat, organized, chronological, professional. I sealed it in a manila envelope along with a printed list of dates, hotel names, and Ryan's name highlighted more than once. I also included copies of internal emails she'd overlooked. One she forwarded to her personal account, including one labeled Team Offsite Retreat, Keep Casual. HR doesn't need itinerary. That alone wouldn't get her fired. But combined with the financial records, the room bookings made through the firm's travel platform, and the email that read, "Let's keep this between us until Q2's locked in," it painted a picture her company's legal department couldn't ignore. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. I mailed the envelope that morning right after sunrise. Dropped it off at a post office 2 towns over. Certified. Tracked. No return address. Just a message delivered the way truth sometimes arrives. Quietly, but with weight. Then I kept driving. I had no destination that day, just direction. South along the coast, with a backpack in the trunk and a single key to my rental taped under the dash. My phone buzzed a few times, emails from clients, nothing from Emily. I didn't expect her to notice I was gone. Not right away. She wouldn't panic until she realized this wasn't just a bad mood or a weekend off-grid. She'd find the cold coffee on the table, my house key beside it, my shoes missing from the closet, my side of the bed undisturbed. But no note, no warning, no apology. That was the point. People like Emily feed off control of the narrative, of the moment, of the memory. They want things to be worked through, not because they care, but because they need the final word. I wasn't going to give her that. Let her sit in the quiet. Let her invent a story she could live with. Because the real one wasn't hers to tell anymore. That first night in the new place, I slept with the window cracked open. I lay on a mattress on the floor, still half wrapped in plastic, listening to wind whip through the rusted gutter outside. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't home. But it was mine. I made a list the next morning, tasks, names, deadlines. I called my lawyer. Told him to begin drafting the paperwork. I didn't even say the word divorce at first. I just said, "It's over. I want out." He asked if there was infidelity. I said, "I have enough evidence to crash a plane." He said he'd be in touch. That same day, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't pick up. A voicemail came through. Her voice. "Hey, not sure what's going on. Call me?" I didn't. An hour later, "Mark, seriously, this isn't funny. Where are you?" Then, "I'm starting to freak out. Please just say something." I didn't. Because the version of me she knew, the one who jumped to fix things, to listen, to smooth it over, he was gone. That part of me died the moment I saw her in the shower with another man. Not with love. Not with sadness. Just indifference. Over the next few days, her tone shifted. From concerned to confused. From confused to desperate. From desperate to furious. She started sending texts instead of calling. The first few were scattered. "You can't just disappear. This is immature. You owe me a conversation." Then came the guilt tactics. "I made one mistake. You said you'd always talk to me, no matter what. Are you really throwing us away over something like this? Something like this. As if it were a billing error. As if my trust had an undo button." I didn't reply. I read them all. I let them stack up. I watched her unravel from a distance. And still, I said nothing. Because every time I thought about answering, I remembered how she looked in that hotel room. Not guilty, not conflicted. Just comfortable. Like she belonged there more than she did beside me. Let her sit with that silence. Let it grow loud. A week after I left, I finally logged into our shared email to check for financial statements. That's when I saw it. A flagged message from her company's legal office. Subject line, urgent. Internal review inquiry, personal conduct. I opened it. The tone was measured, formal. It referred to an anonymous report citing potential misuse of company resources, inappropriate workplace conduct, and ethical violations involving a department head. They requested a meeting. Failure to respond would trigger suspension pending investigation. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I closed the tab. I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumphant. Just still. 2 days later, a colleague from her firm, someone we'd had dinner with once, messaged me on LinkedIn. Strange, since we'd never spoken directly before. His message was short. "Hey, not sure if it's my place, but you probably already know what's going on. Things are a mess over here. Ryan's gone. Emily's under review. Just thought you deserved to hear it somewhere besides a memo. I didn't reply, because I wasn't surprised. Ryan vanished. He didn't even stick around to deny it. Rumor was he took an unpaid leave and never came back. Emily, on the other hand, wasn't offered the same exit. Her profile disappeared from the firm's website by the end of the month. Not a single press release. No farewell post. Just erased. A shadow where she used to be. And me? I kept working. Quietly. Steadily. I fixed up tables for the workshop owner. Learned how to sand down edges, how to stain pine. My hands stayed busy, which helped my mind stay quiet. Occasionally, she'd still try to reach out. On weekends, late at night, her texts became longer. Some of them started like this. I don't even know who I am without you. Please, just talk to me. I'm lost. He meant nothing. It was never about him. But I didn't respond, because I wasn't interested in her pain. I was interested in peace. She had made 1,000 choices before I ever made one. I was just the one who followed through. I never blocked her. That would have been too kind. Blocking would give her a door to knock on. I wanted her to stare at silence, to wonder if I'd ever speak again, to realize I wouldn't. A week later, I heard Emily was fired. The firm's review turned up hidden payments to Ryan and internal emails that tanked a major contract. Ryan vanished. Her name was scrubbed from the company site. She texted first cool, then frantic, then bitter. I never replied. I was already gone, living above a workshop in a quiet town. Her life crumbled on its own. I didn't need to raise my voice. Silence did the work for me. 8 months later, I live by the river, restoring boats and drinking coffee with my dog by my side. Emily is just a ghost in a chapter I've closed. What hurt most wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing how long I ignored the silence between us. She broke something I'll never fix, but I built something better in its place. Peace. No rage. No regrets. Just mornings that start without fear and nights that end with quiet I can finally trust.